One. Hello.
You said the
Maybe
milk
some
insert
people.
clip. And I was
That's
just
right.
I was just thinking
I don't
there's
know.
some bad
I
ones
know.
out there.
We didn't advertise this one as much, so some people jump on there as we go. So
Yes.
let's introduce some people. Dr. Matt. I don't know where it would be below me. Like
I
the
am.
very
That's where I am right now, at least on my
off
screen.
off to my side, diagonal is Dr. Thane, and then Amy's to this side. So there we go. So we're going to talk tonight about the shoulder, which is going to be pretty sweet. So let us know in the comments any questions as we go. We're going to talk about the mechanics of the shoulder. You're going to be kind of amazed at how many connections there is in the human body to the function of that shoulder and why it's such a big deal when these things happen, and some really cool things you can do to kind of keep yourself, evaluating your shoulder. So we're gonna start with one cool thing. Hang on, I gotta do it. All right, Chrome. Are you ready? So this is how most patients come into office. They have some kind of issue. They're fighting a ninja, and then boom, and then see the shoulder. Okay. Oh, that's so terrible.
So
Just kidding. Yes. So this is usually the injuries we see
Yes.
in the office.
I just
Where
had this case history today with a
yeah,
new patient.
we just had this case
75-year-old
history
woman.
yesterday.
Yep.
Couldn't believe it. The ninja. I mean, it's just terrible. After they get all bandaged up, he had to put his shoulder back in. It was
Yeah.
amazing. So those are the ones we see a lot. It's
Should
just
we rate
crazy.
this as a TVM for mature? Like,
I know that was pretty good.
I'm
One
happy
of my favorite
Sadie's not
movies,
here. I don't
though.
want her to,
To this day, if anyone has ever seen that Lethal Weapon, you should watch the whole series again because it's epic. And he dislocates his shoulder in every movie, and so he like throws his body a lot of times, typically into to back into place, right? So
Is that a chiropractic adjustment, Jeremy?
I don't know. That was before we knew how to adjust the shoulder correctly, maybe. Like I don't know. So he was just learning some stuff. So what we're gonna go over tonight, and I'll start. I'm gonna go over a little bit of the anatomy of the shoulder. As we go, everybody's gonna chime in and kind of show you what we can do. Chiropractic's a big adjuster. There's tons of different treatments we can do for shoulder in general. Keeping the mechanics just like everything else we do. Oh, cool. We got like 10 people out there. That's awesome. Just like everything else we do, for us, it's about the human body's perfect, right? We go from that premise. We go from this human body's perfect. And so if we can get the shoulder mechanics back to perfection, right? Or as close as we can, then you're going to have the body take care of itself at that point, right? So that's what we constantly are striving to look for as we're looking for the different things. One of the big keys to the whole shoulder, the entire shoulder, is understanding that it's the most mobile joint in the entire human body, right? So that by itself gives you a ton of, I would say, possibly issues as you go. And there's another little caveat. Everybody, it makes sense. Okay, you can injure it easier because you can move it a lot more. You got a way bigger range of motion. You can do so many things with it. But there's one other caveat to that is that I mean you have a lot of muscles around there that control it. But here's the big thing that happens in our society as I observe it. We also have the biggest ability to adapt to a condition that may be there, right? So if something happens or gets injured in that shoulder, we're very good at adapting, right, to that shoulder injury and are able to function for a long time without addressing that condition. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So just to summarize, and tell me if I'm summarizing this good,
Yeah.
is what you're saying is the shoulder has the most range of motion, which is a wonderful thing. But
Yep.
because of that, if you tweak something, because of all that excess range of motion ability, you can kind of hide the injury longer because other things are compensating. And so
Exactly.
a
So
little thing over time becomes a big thing.
right. So you have, let's say, the range of motion of your, let's say, your lower back, right? So you have this lower back, and you can only turn so far, right? So let's say you twist and you turn and you pick up a log, right? There's only a certain range of motion there. That shows up a little quicker, and it's harder to adapt around that because the range of motion or that motion that you have is kind of a little bit more limited. The shoulder, on the other hand, let's say you heard it. Let's say Matt was a pitcher, right? So he's pitching, and he throws so many that he gets really strong in there in that one arm. Well, let's say the mechanics are off. Well, then those muscles have the ability to adapt, so he can still throw that thing, right? But it has this higher range of motion where you don't have those effects, right? So a lot of time we're going to see more, in my opinion. I would, you guys all see it too. You'll see these chronic shoulder problems that we'll see many weeks, many months down the road, and typically it's not anything, like sometimes it's, oh, I take a pain medicine and that kind of chronically moves it down the road. This one, you can adapt to it. A good example is my older ladies. My older ladies be cooking dinner, all those kind of things, but they'll hurt their shoulder and they can adapt. And I've seen it, all of us have seen it. They, let's say they're reaching for dishes. Let's say it's grandma cooking for everybody, and you watch them reach for dishes, and they can like completely change their body, right, to grab that dish where they never did that before. But you may not even notice you did that. Does that make sense?
No, I think that was a great of the lesson you're looking to teach. I think that was a great example right there.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
you can contort your trunk, you can contort your neck, you can do a lot of things when you aren't getting that. But in this case, that shoulder blade sliding, yeah, you're going to compensate around all the time. People all the time will say, turn your head, and people will go like this and turn their
Yes,
whole trunk. That's kind of what
right.
you're saying.
Exactly. So that's the hard part, is like when somebody goes, "Yeah, I'm doing fine." We go, "Okay,
into
so
a robot.
doesn't hurt when I turn. Look." So that's what we see all the time in the office, right? So one of the things though that makes the shoulder kind of, also because of that range, right? We have this complexity to it, and it is a little harder, like even for diagnosis wise, all those things. We have to look a little deeper in there to find those things. So we're going to go over a little bit just to get you familiar. I know I don't want you to all be scientists and stuff, but we're going to go over what everybody hears in the world is rotator cuff. So all of you know that the shoulder has a rotator cuff, right? So we're not going to even look at that, right? We know there's rotator cuff muscles. Okay. So when you're looking at this, when you see that video go, look at what else is attached in there. Okay. It's not just the rotator cuff. And so that's what I want you to kind of focus on there as I pull this up. All right. Let's see. Let me go. Okay. So we're going to start with, you guys hear me good?
Yeah.
That's right. So here's all the different muscles, right? You guys see all that?
Yep.
Yeah.
We good? Okay. So here's all the different muscles on the outside of the shoulder. This is called the deltoid there. Here's your pack, right? Here's your bicep.
So you actually look at the front side and the side is what you're looking at.
Exactly. Yep. So you got a few different muscles there. And so as this goes a little further, here's the bones quick. So if you look at the function of the shoulder, and it's one of the only ones that needs all three bones to move perfectly to get it right. So you can see how your shoulder blade is attached to that humerus. So everybody thinks about this here, the big stick, your arm, where this little ball and socket right here is one of the bigger things, right? So we're going to go on a little bit further. Okay, so there's the pec. We're just highlighting that. This is what I want you to focus on. So everyone, when somebody comes up behind you and grabs your shoulders, right, they are feeling those traps, right? So the trapezoid, those big muscles that go up into your neck, right, attach into your shoulder as well. And you see how far down your spine that big old muscle goes. Okay, so there's one to look at. Here's the other one. This one is probably one of our most common ones in chiropractic that we see, that you have aches, but it's based on your shoulder. This is called lat, the latissimus dorsi, and that one attaches in your shoulder as well. And then you have this big, huge muscle. But guess where all these attach? This yellow mark right on the other side of that's the spine, right? And then there's little ribs back there. It's pretty interesting, right?
Well, and just
So
from
then
an
we'll go
anatomy
into,
standpoint, this is your lat right here. When you feel this thing, that's your lat muscle.
yeah, that
guy
big
right
lat
there.
muscle here,
Yeah.
right? And then we go into here. Yes.
Yes,
That V.
that
People
V
that are
shape
shaped
that
like
Thane
that.
has fantastically.
Yes.
Yes.
Thane usually he was gonna show us
Yeah.
like how this.
Would you just slip your shirt off and just
It didn't
turn
work
around and
out
just
as well as we
There's
Watch
children.
the back.
There's children.
That's how it goes, right? Hi, Sadie.
You say hi?
Hi,
You're gonna learn about the
Sadie.
shoulder.
I like
and
your
the rotator cuff,
pigtails.
Sadie. Tonight is rotator cuff. Isn't that cool?
See,
I
she's
know.
up to the shoulder. She was
All
ready
right,
to
I'll
go.
keep sharing. We got a little bit more of this one. Hopefully, this is working.
Tonight's elbow, I think Sadie's telling us. We twist it
That's
up.
right. So here's the rotator cuff. That's kind of underneath that thing called the deltoid, the one you feel on the outside, that big shoulder muscle there. So those are all the rotator cuff. And that's what a lot of surgeons will have to work on as you go. Let me show you the motion. I want to find that part. So, let me see.
Supraspinatus.
Oh, we're not going to go through that. Okay.
So in isolation creates abduction of the humerus.
He's got an English accent.
He does. He has
The
the
muscle
English
is
accent.
innervated by the
I
suprascapular
was
nerve,
hoping.
Scapula.
which all
Sorry, guys.
insert.
I'll find a good spot.
The subscapularis muscle sits on the anterior
This would have
surface
helped a
of the
lot in
scapula.
school.
If we
Yes. Oh my gosh. Imagine having you two. Yeah, exactly. Like crazy. Oh, here's a good. This is kind of cool. So you can see these are all little nerves, right? So these are all the nerves that go through your shoulder, right? So you have all those nerves and muscle in this little tiny area going down through your arm. Basically, like why your armpit, if somebody like stuck their finger in your armpit, right? It hurt like crazy. Let me see if I can find that.
There's a snarky comment that's come into the.
Oh, yeah?
Is essentially like
Am I
a root
moving
above
too
the
much?
supraspinatus
No.
tendon as it passes underneath to insert onto the
I think it's just
great
someone just wanting to cause riffraff.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen.
Thanks for watching,
Hey.
Dana.
Yeah, you're actually see. Got you up out of your nap. That's probably what happened. That's right.
Maybe we should have
But
Dana on here with
actually,
her fur
in that
babies on her lap.
realm,
That'd be fun.
Dana's probably worked on a ton of these in her career and all those kind of things. She probably sees I would say in physical therapy, I would assume that they would use, there's so many shoulder injuries that you would work with the muscles. It would be insane. But no, I have one. Let me find that real quick. 'Cause I know I got one that just has the. All right, I'll stop him from talking. That would be helpful.
No,
Go in.
what's cute, Mama?
All right, we're gonna close it down. We're gonna open. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. I'm just mesmerized how old Sadie looks tonight for some reason.
I know. That is so true. Library.
I seriously think you were like pregnant like last year sometimes. I'm like, nope, that's more than a 1-year-old.
Yep.
So crazy.
We should have used Amy's foot pick when we did the feet.
I still got one saved, guys. I still got one saved.
All right. So what do we do?
That's an elephantitis week thing.
Yes. So true. So this one's kind of interesting. This shows what they call the cartilage, and a lot of times this is where you can have some major issues in there. You see these different areas. That's the cartilage. So when you're looking at any joint in the body, you have these separators, right? So you have cartilage, water, air, right? So those things kind of separate those two to make a nice, easy surface in there. Let me find you the movement. And you'll see the biggest thing is like understanding the movement of the shoulder is so important. Oh, there it is. Okay. So we're going to skip up to here. So it's so complex in movement that you have to understand the bones that are involved. And if you see this dude is working it, but no other joint you can do these type of these movements in the shoulder. Okay. So one of the things you have to do is you have to see, as we go through this tonight, we're going to see
What are you doing?
how that works. Let me see. I'm hoping they'd have an anatomy one where it shows the 3 bones. Dang it. Sorry, guys.
You're showing movement and things, and Robert just put about the under the shoulder blade issue, and
yeah,
and you're talking about that, but I don't think So explain like you keep talking about motion.
Yeah.
The shoulder blade is not a static thing when you move your arm, right? It's moving in different positions, but then we have these horizontal muscles coming back to the shoulder blade called the rhomboids. And that's what Robert is feeling is in that area is his shoulder blade isn't gliding and the rhomboids are doing this.
Exactly.
Is what's
Let me
going on
show
there.
you this one, Rob. On that same note, you're going to see a guy with his back facing to you. You're going to notice the difference between his shoulder height. Okay. So when we look at this, you're going to see now, if let's say my hands are your shoulder blades, did you see how many muscles were attached to those shoulder blades?
A lot.
So when we went back, that's why we showed that. You have the lat, you have all these muscles. Like we could name them all tonight if you wanted to. There's 26 of them in there. Okay. So when you have that many muscles attached to one joint, if I raise this one and just leave it there, right? What happens to the muscles around there? And that's what you have to look at. So like Robert's talking, if I take this, and remember, it's all attached to the ribs and the vertebrae and all those areas in there, and I take that and I just say, okay, this is your new normal, right? That portion tightens down and then you have issues. So what happens is the mechanics of your shoulder are causing anything underneath that shoulder blade to happen. So that's why, like Robert's a good example, actually. He's a good adjustment. If you ever get a chance, other chiropractor, remember his name on there. When you adjust and you get those big noises and you hear those like little rib adjustment pieces, like where the rib and the vertebrae kind of go together. A lot of times it's kind of shocking to your body, but you're essentially trying to get that function back to those ribs and vertebrae and everything, right? So here's the picture real quick. I'll do that real fast. Sorry. Man, I'll get good at this. I swear. Please show it. Oh, you did. What happened? Okay. Hang on. Is that the one I just did? Oh, I did it wrong. Okay. That's what.
So Marcia, just to answer your question while he's searching that out, is most commonly injured muscles are the 4 rotator cuffs, and they're called the sits muscles. The supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, and the subscapularis. And that first one, the supraspinatus, that is the most commonly torn rotator cuff muscle, which would also be the most commonly torn muscle in the shoulder area as well. Now, most common doesn't mean the only. I actually, in high school, tore the bicep tendon, which is also a shoulder muscle. So you can tear all sorts of things, but that is the most likely thing that's going to get torn in a shoulder.
Exactly. So, and here's an example. This guy, he has one shoulder. You see, this is where your shoulder blade would sit. And you see how this one's different, right? It just doesn't look right. It should be about the same across. And so when do you guys see my pointer? If I do that? Okay. So when that happens, you got to remember there's all these attachments of muscle all the way from here to here, right? Into the spine, and then down here, it goes all the way down to the mid lower back. So in chiropractic, we see a ton of what I would say the mid back hurts to breathe, rib uncomfortableness that occurs, and you go, man, I just lifted something, used my shoulders, right, or did some kind of activity like that, and that started this whole situation, but you didn't hurt anything right in the lower back or not. I'm sorry, right where your rib cage meets your lower back. It's probably the best example. People get that pain through there. A lot of times it is this, what they call the latissimus dorsi, that's coming from that shoulder, but it's tight. And so when that tightness happens, and when you look in the wrong spot, like we know in chiropractic, we can, let's say, adjust the spine all the time. But if you're not checking those shoulders, right? So you could have a shoulder that looks like that kid I just put up there, right? Instead of having your shoulders here, one's way up here, and we can adjust you. And if you still walk out like that, right, then we got an issue. So one of the reasons why we're so excited, we always get really excited about chiropractic and finding basically the why someone's hurting, is because we kind of look at that. We kind of evaluate that through, that's why it's important to tell your doctor everything you did, right?
Yeah.
Like, you never know, like what you caught, like what you did could have caused something simple that it didn't equate to you that would occur, that would go on that. Yeah, how did you get a picture? I know. That's how you look every time. No, I'm just kidding. So
I think it is kind of creepy. You went
like
to Robert's
this,
Facebook and grabbed a beach picture off his Facebook. That's a little creepy.
I know. He'll send us stuff all the time. That's right. But what we've learned over time is if we can get the spine correct and those shoulders, life is really, really good. Now, what we noticed over time as well in the last 2 years is the amount of people getting shoulder problems just from what? Sitting at home like sitting at home now instead of going into work and moving and functioning. We are at a desk, like sitting.
Yes, Chromebook posture.
coming in like this, and then they're like, "Oh, why does my back hurt?" Every single one of us does that, right? So that's one of the hardest parts, because some people were forced into the one that was always killer is the COVID thing. Like, the person's like, "Oh, I'll work from home, no problem." So they got this laptop on their desk, and they're on their couch, on their lap, like on the coffee table, and then their neck and shoulders and everything went wacky, right? So that's why I love the chiropractic aspect of things. Before, the biggest thing for us is medically, there's a lot of options before you have to go in for a surgery. When you have that many muscles, really, and I'm going to say it's really worth your time and sometimes to try like something conservative way before you do a surgery that may not be the right muscle, right? Or may not really, get it right, because it's so complex of movement that it's really tough to like hone in on the exact thing. So, and so many have had shoulder surgery, right? But taking that time, and sometimes it takes a long time. Like, that's what we're kind of doing these videos for. A lot of times, a shoulder with chiropractic adjustments, with the therapies that we can do now, with understanding the mechanics of all that, really start to. It takes a little time to let that in, to really start gaining the function back to that shoulder. But it means the world to that person. You could have migraine headaches, right? So
Yeah.
you two have any cases that you're like, oh my gosh, it was the shoulder throwing the neck off? Like, I'm sure we've had those already. Even Dr. Thane in his small, like shorter time frame probably had a couple of those where their neck was off, right? It caused the headache. And they go, oh, it was your shoulder. It pulled basically the neck out of place, in a sense, right? And so which one's the cause, right? Is it just the neck or is it everything? So,
well, a good point that you made too is there's so much compensation in the shoulder, right? What I always, a lot of things that I see, it's called bursitis. So there's this bursa, which is like a fluid sac within the shoulder, which helps kind of the fluidity of all the motions of the muscles and ligaments. And what happens is that bursa, there's a huge inflammation complex that goes around it when we do a lot of repetitive motion, we're doing the same thing, and those biomechanics are off. And when that gets all inflamed, the shoulder comes up like you're talking about, or the shoulder starts to rotate up, and that limits that range of motion. And sometimes that pain can be right here in the front. Sometimes it can be a little bit more on top. But a lot of the times they're like, oh, I can't lift my arm, or I can't move it back this way. Obviously, there can be other factors involved there, but when that becomes so bad, a lot in severe cases, it'll be something called the frozen shoulder, which is basically bursitis to the max, where we're literally not getting any of those planes of motion. So, and a big thing is to try to get some of that motion back. Like you said, it takes time. You're not going to just yank at somebody's shoulder and reel that motion back, right? It takes time to re-educate. But the other one too that I've been seeing quite a bit is when it comes out, like you showed there with the brachial plexus, is there's a cervical, or not a cervical, that first rib that comes in that thoracic outlet, right? And it's basically that triangle where you come from the clavicle out to the shoulder, and it comes back up. As chiropractors, we palpate with the sternocleidomastoid, and we kind of look down to feel if there's any protrusion in there. And some people will come in, they're like, oh, my shoulder hurts, and then I'm getting this like burning or numbness or this sharp pain into the shoulder. And they think it's just a nerve or the neck, but really it's that cervical rib, right? But that also restricts that range of motion. The shoulder's fun because it's so complex, and that's the fun part of what we do is figure out those pieces to the puzzle, which is their back and their biomechanics, and trying to get them back to feel like themselves again.
Yeah, there's a lot. So one of the neat things about the shoulder too is, and you hit a lot of those different parts, the motions in there lead to, in my opinion, I go small steps lead to huge gains in the shoulder especially, right?
Amen.
So a lot of people get frustrated. Like, so somebody will not have range of motion, right? So they get stuck here, right? The problem is because there's so much complexity to this shoulder, and we're going to have Amy talk a little bit about it. Matt has some sweet exercises in just a minute, but as we go, if we go from, let's say my arm's stuck here, right? And then we go to here, that's a huge gain, right? Because all these muscles there's so many that have to like work together to get there. So a lot of times there's so much you can do, and we're trying to get, I always say, like, our office is like that. We love the self-awareness portion of chiropractic in general. So what that means is like once you leave, that treatment is just the treatment, right? It ends up, it's on you a lot to take it to the next level day by day, seeing these little tiny gains, because if you can gain that without having to have a surgery, it's insane. It'll change your life, because then that mechanics and all those things, you didn't have to have anything get cut on that would make it weaker, different kind of surgeries in there. And really, I've seen it a bazillion times. You start saying, okay, every day I'm going to do an exercise for my shoulders every day. Like Matt and I, now we just all taught, like before we open our doors at 7 in the morning, we have routines that all of us do to get warmed up, right? Because we want to make sure our shoulders don't get fried doing adjustments all day, right? So, but it's hilarious because all of us are like talking to each other now and like doing the thing.
Yeah.
At first, like it was
kicks
just me,
from that.
right? It's 7 in the morning and I'm there. And then Matt comes. I'm like, all right, we stayed separate, right? Because we're a little embarrassed. We had to do these stretches because
not
as
embarrassed.
we age, right? And then all of a sudden we get together. We're like, yeah, so we're doing all this stuff to get ready for your day because we know how important it is. Because when you adjust, when your shoulder gets kind of messed up, it is not a fun day. But the coolest part is we've all figured out how to recover from that. The journey is the recovery. And so if you can kind of work it yourself, and that is the key, because you can writhe in that, right? And it's not that it's not hurting, it's just you have to figure out a way every single day to attack it. Mr. Stacy, we will talk about the percussion one, because I'll give that to me a little bit. Let's do a so what we do in the office now is there's a whole procedure. So if somebody has a shoulder blade problem that needs that extended time, because Amy is able to not only do massage therapy, but other therapies that we just love to work with. It is very cool. Like we can offer a few more things to aid you a little, getting there a little quicker, right? So trying to get us there as fast as we can with the healing. And the one that's fascinating, I'll let Amy talk about it, but the one that we talked about, I think last time, was called gua sha.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the shoulder has got to be one of your favorite ones to work out in gua sha, because it seems. So explain to them what gua sha is, right?
It's good.
Right. Yeah. So Amy, go ahead.
Gua sha is it's an ancient Chinese technique that helps break up scar tissue, decrease inflammation, increase circulation. The purpose is to get more blood to that area to help it heal. And a lot of times shoulders are, they've had a lot of trauma. So people walk in just like all of the pictures, and that one shoulder's up here and one's down here. Or people like to wear them like earrings a lot, and they're up here. They have a lot of stress. Or they have a lot of things with their job where they're required to look at a computer screen all day, or they're sitting and they're looking down and they're looking over here, and they have horrible posture. Their desk area isn't set up. Repetitive use, working in a factory, all those types of things. People come in, and gua sha will help to loosen up the area, smooth out fascia. Definitely is one of my favorite areas to work as a massage therapist, doing gua sha, or just massage in general. There's so many muscles, so many things it could be. It's like a treasure hunt every time, because somebody will come in and say, I can only lift my arm this far or this far. So, you start on the back and work all of those muscles, and then then you can go to the front. There's a lot of attachment sites that you can hit. Shoulders are great. They tend to turn lots of different colors when you're doing gua sha on them. It looks a little scary, but that makes me very happy when there's a lot of color, because that's a good thing. That means that healing is about to happen, and it looks awful, but I know what it's going to feel like the next day. So that definitely can help improve range of motion, which is a lot of the goal too.
Yeah, and I like how you explain that too, because scar tissue, one of the things is we're gonna harp on this with the shoulder especially, That range of motion is a big deal. Problem is like when you have that big of range of motion, you have that much more opportunity to cause some kind of small scar tissue issue that you didn't know you had, right? It could go, I'll give you this, it can go as far back as you fell off your bike as a kid,
Yeah.
right? Threw the mechanics off, and now there's a little bit of scar tissue, some muscle remembers how you fell off this bike and the shoulder's not working that good, right? So, but you can go never feel that, right? For years until you're working in a job that it's the same repetitive motion over and over again. All of a sudden you start feeling these old injuries kind of pop up because you were able to avoid them, in that time frame. And so that's where gouache is pretty stinking amazing. Like
I've been
and
tortured by
scar
Amy
tissue
in the
kind of
shoulder
break up
before.
is just crazy.
when but the Amy's talking about the scar tissue, and just again today was it was lunchtime. It wasn't morning, it wasn't afternoon, it was lunchtime. But I've had someone that I've adjusted just twice, and we're getting this range of motion change. But I'm just like, she's got a goal up here, and she has a right to have that goal. And I'm going, all right, if you want that goal, you need to go and see Amy for a half hour. And she was in total nodding in agreement. And we went right over to Shelby and we got her scheduled, and she's going to be seeing Amy. I don't know exactly if it's this week or next week, but because I'm getting all this joint movement, but the scar tissue is so ingrained. It's like locked in there, and it needs that just a little bit extra to open up. And all those adjustments we've been doing are going to get an exponential benefit because Amy will be able to bust through that barrier that my adjustment itself is just not getting. So it's just, I'm excited for her. She's excited because she's like, okay, you can do this other thing, because I could probably adjust her 10 times and maybe get the range of motion back. But now I can adjust her twice. Amy gets in there, and then I'll adjust her a third time, and she's probably gonna have exactly what she wants because those things combine together.
Yeah, because our ultimate goal in chiropractic and in all holistic is to take out what we all call the interference to healing, right?
Yeah.
There's a
Thanks for working,
roadblock.
Robert, supporting the economy. Appreciate you.
That's right. So there's this roadblock that gets in the way. Oh, you got to go to work? Oh, come on. All right, fine.
Can you write him a note, Jeremy?
He's gonna be. He's been on a lot of ours, man. Mr. Stacy is awesome. So, but yeah, there's these roadblocks, and our job in chiropractic and holistic is to remove the roadblock, right? So, trying to get rid of these roadblocks in the way, you start taking away scar tissue, you get the right function, you get those things. You're going to be amazed at how far you can go with shoulders. I can't even tell you how many. I wish I could have like all the cool testimonials on that, just the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many different aspects of that function that we get back. And once people realize, and you're going to see it with Dr. Matt's, I wish it was videos, dang it. He has some great videos on our actual YouTube channel called My Peak, which I'll put in here too, of shoulder exercises. We're going to go through a little PowerPoint of the different ones. These will help also when you're not able to get into an office, like the days that you're not, with us. There's exercises and things you can do to really make a difference, and they're not what you normally think, right? So I'll let Matt kind of walk through as I share the screen. All right, we're going to go here. Okay, so boom, maybe. Oh, nope, I don't want to go to that one yet.
Dang.
There we go.
Mindset.
This is my favorite because of how he's standing.
That does look a little inappropriate. Did we just get TVM for mature again? I'm a little nervous here.
I had to mess with
so there are so we'll have someone come in that is doing PT, and they'll say, hey, my doc gave me these exercises, and it's a packet, like 13-page packet, and it will have like 12 different exercises in there that are all for your shoulder. and nobody's got time for that. Like, there's just too much to do. I mean, they might all be great. They might all be beneficial, but that's just not realistic to say, I'm going to spend 30 to 45 minutes a day doing things. And so what I'm showing you here are 3 things. And once again, I busted this shoulder up in high school, which is 25 plus years ago. And if my shoulders get sore, this one's getting sore first the rest of my life. And so I got to take care of it because, oh, by the way, like Jeremy was saying, we use these things for our occupation. And I want to do this for another few decades, at the very least. So I got to take care of it. So there's actually a little 10-second video to this that's not working because, you know, we're not technical whiz kids here.
Right.
But what this is this is a great exercise. And if you want to search it out on the internet, it's called a dead hang is what it's called. There's lots of great videos out there. And I'm showing you here in a doorway. We were just holding on to the top of a doorway. But if you have a pull-up bar, if you have an exposed stair, like in a pole barn or in a basement or something, anything you can get your arms fully extended is what we want. And I'm not lifting my feet. I'm just bending my knees is what I'm doing. And just getting that full stretch. And this is a range of motion thing. And you're going to feel so much open up. And I just stretch down and just open that up and just allow the body to elongate. And it just opens up so much range of motion. So that's my number 1 from a stretching standpoint. Could you show the next one there too?
I will.
Yeah.
And so this one is Rotator Cuff 101. It's called internal external range of motion. You jam your elbow into your side. And I also call this the soup can exercise because you don't want to go more than 1 to 2 pounds, because when you're using a light weight like you see in here, that's a 1 pound weight. You're focusing on the rotator cuff muscles, which are not big, strong muscles. If you start getting a heavier weight, you start getting out here to the deltoid, which is a big, strong muscle. And all you're doing is you're opening and closing the cupboard. But by using a lightweight or frankly, even no weight, just keeping the elbow to the side, open, close the cupboard, what you're doing is you're actually firing those rotator cuff. Because they're not big, strong, huge muscles, they actually strengthen a lot quicker. And so this is another regular exercise for me just to stabilize that shoulder, because that's what the rotator cuff does, is it's muscles that stabilize the ball in the socket. This is an amazing, simple, effective exercise as well. Could you show the last one?
I can. There we go.
And the last one is a wonderful example of, I am not passed out there, by the way, in the office. Okay. We're fun loving, but we don't do
that. That's what he
office.
says. That's what he says.
But
that's what he told me.
But this one is, as we already talked about, is Jeremy gave the example of all these people, you know, having to work from home in the last 2 years, and they're working in horrific posture. And something that infuriates me is the schools have thrown all these kids Chromebooks, and Chromebooks give them this horrible posture because they got this little screen, this little keyboard, and they're doing this. And then they go home and they do this on their phones, and they get this jammed up posture where everything rolls forward. Well, what I'm doing here is I'm laying on my tummy and I'm taking my arms and I'm fluttering them backwards. So when I'm laying on my tummy, it's a going upward motion. But what this is this is firing the muscles under the shoulder blades that are horizontal like this, called the rhomboids. And you're bringing the shoulder blade back, which is what the socket of the ball and socket joint, but you're bringing that back, which brings your shoulders back, which corrects that posture, that abuse of that look down, hunched over posture that we're doing. So I do the dead hang to stretch and open up the shoulder. I build the rotator cuff by doing that simple open, close the cupboard. And then I get the muscles that bring my shoulder blades back, take me out of that hunchback of Notre Dame type posture, and get that better posture. Because no one out here likes Notre Dame, so I can say that as a bad thing anyway.
That was awesome.
But so those are 3 of my favorites. Do I have more? Heck yeah, I got more. There's other good things you can do, but those are so accessible that you can do. I mean, like the open, close the cupboard. I do that when I'm driving sometimes. I mean, that is such an easy, simple thing to do. These are simple things that are extremely powerful, and that's why I wanted to share those 3 in particular.
Yeah, those are awesome. And anything that you can do that it doesn't take you any time, because that's what a lot of people, we just don't have that time. And that's what occurs. Or sometimes we have too much time. We don't think about those things, right?
Yeah, but
So
you can
I
knock
always
those
use
out,
this
you know, in less
analogy.
than 3 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a easy less than 5-minute thing. And what I do at this point is I'll do the dead hang. I'll hold it for about 10 seconds. I'll relax it. And then I'll hold it for about 10 seconds. I relax it. And I'll do that a third time. And I feel like I just grew 1.5 inches. Like it just opens up so much. And then when I do this, I'll do this like 200 times because there's no weight there. And it just fatigues out eventually. But I'll do it like 200 times. And then when I go and do it's called an IYT. But when I go and do that rhomboid move, I'll do a set of 100, which is exhausting. I'll take a breather and I'll do another set of 100, which is exhausting. And by the time I'm done, I feel like I'm standing 10 feet tall. My shoulders are totally just bouncing and feeling great. Like
Takes that slouch out, you know?
Yeah, but that's about 5 minutes, if that. I mean, it takes me little to no time. I do that about 2-3 times a week.
Right. And it's awesome. Like if you get into those modes, like I'll always say this with anything, like over the 20 years, the guys that walk it, they're 90 years old and they drive into the office whistling because their back's out a little bit. All of those people, that group of people has this daily routine that they're doing, they're functioning. You know, you go, why is this 90-year-old walking in with like life's good, and then you got, you know, a 50-year-old or my age guy that can't even move, right? And it's such a difference for us chiropractors because you're going, whoa, it's a big difference, right? But some of them, they've just learned that self-care is it's so vital every day, and it adds one little layer of positive health improvement just by doing 5 minutes of shoulder workout. And I guarantee this is always a funny thing. Like anytime you start doing shoulder workout, if you did shoulder and something for your hips. Like that's what I tell all my ladies. You're worried about osteoporosis or those type of things. A big thing you can do, and I've seen it happen. Somebody said, "Oh, they got, you know, they're saying I got osteoporosis." I go, you know what? One of the number one things that you can do is weight lift. Like put a little lifting in the world. And where is a woman going to have, if it's a female, shoulders and hips are going to be the osteoporotic, or the bones start to go in those areas first, right? So if you can gain a little strength in those shoulders, you're helping another condition, not only the shoulder stuff, right? So you got the shoulder pain, you also will help that bone growth, because strong muscle leads to building the bone up underneath. Okay. So yeah. So that was the shoulder. Do you guys got anything?
Well,
I think we're doing pretty good.
I got one more. I'm actually gonna send it to you just so you have it. But if you could post it in the chat, you know, probably our favorite exercise is the "You Want to Live Long" exercise.
Oh yeah.
And if you're going to do one thing to get range of motion, to get strength, to change your posture, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a 1-minute exercise, and that one I do every single morning.
So do I.
It is a phenomenal exercise. So if you're going to do one thing, click that video. It's a 2-minute, 33-second video. It's me and my goofy smile, but it will show you the one most important exercise to do.
Yep.
And if you pretend it's the YMCA song in your head, it goes even faster. It's the exact same kind of concept. Yeah. It's amazing how people's arms move in the YMCA, though. Have you ever noticed that? They might have a shoulder problem, but maybe some other things are going on. Maybe that they get this YMCA going pretty good in these parties. All of a sudden, they are tearing that dance floor up. It's pretty impressive. So I was like, man, I thought she had a shoulder problem. That's what I always laugh about. It was like, but no, I think we've done good. I think if anybody has any questions, here we go. I know Mr. Stacy's not here right now. He was talking about the Theragun, how we have our opinion on it. And I go, I love the thing. I think it's great to have one of those. The problem sometimes is an acute injury. You have to be smart about it. So I showed you on those videos, there's joints, right? And there's muscle. A lot of times, if you not know where everything is at, try to find the muscle belly when you're doing things. If you decide to hit like the bony part of something when you're using it, you might not like the end result of that, right? So it'll fire it up. Happens to our bodies are made of joints and muscle. So when you hit that thing, I've seen it a few times where somebody hits it pretty hard, but they hit the joint underneath, which then inflames the joint, and now we got a problem there.
Yeah.
So I try to tell people hit the big muscles that are there, and that is a good starter, and then talk to your chiropractor about it, and say, okay, where should I work it? Yeah, that would be good.
Well, the way I always describe that,
because it gets in there.
That thing's more aggressive, and we take this attitude: if some is good, more is better. You can actually irritate tissue and joint by overusing that. That's why I always say, if you're going to get one thing, the vibrational type massagers that we have at the office, which is just a fancy car polisher, but you're never going to hurt yourself with that. You never will.
Exactly.
The percussive stuff, you could hurt yourself because your ego got better of you. And you're like, I'm going to do this so hard. I'm going to fix it once and for all. You got to have some sort of wisdom of how hard you use that thing.
Yeah. And contrary to popular YouTube belief or TikTok belief, more violent is not always the best answer.
Listen,
when you see
who showed that opening video, by the way?
Dear Lord.
Who showed the opening video? You showed violence.
I did. Well, except for Mel Gibson. He can get away with it because I really like Mel Gibson. And the Lethal Weapon series. Watch the Lethal Weapon series. That's your homework for next time we do this. You should watch all of them.
Yes. And just remember, you're getting too old for this stuff, Jeremy.
I know. That's the worst.
That was my Lethal Weapon quote.
No one even knows what Lethal Weapon is. That's the sad part. I don't even know if they had cell phones. I have no idea.
They did have mullets.
That's right. Exactly. Well, you guys rock. I appreciate all of you getting on there. Hopefully this will post up, stay up there on Facebook and our YouTube channel. But ask the docs at the office, like any kind of shoulder thing. Chiropractic's much more than neck and back pain. And we always are excited when people find that discovery where they can actually improve themselves. I always like this saying, not everyone can find their true potential, just those who seek it. And I think I love that statement because of the chiropractic role that can play. And if it can lead to somebody not having shoulder surgery, awesome. That's what I love. So, all right. You guys rock. Thank you for sticking with us, even though you probably didn't even know we were going to be on. Appreciate
you.
All right. Good night, Sadie.
Good night, Sadie.
Good night.